Hello and welcome back, and that's right, it's time for another Storaxa NAS update. Now today it is going to be the November update. However, I know right now almost certainly you're looking down and seeing that this video has been published in December. Why is that? Well, largely because although we do have several updates and different bits of information I want to discuss about this campaign that occurred during the course of November, I do think it's also worth highlighting that at the moment Storaxa has kind of issued updates at times to set their when they're going to update people, and sometimes they have and sometimes they've been delayed in doing so. And I've noticed on there that it says October 30th, and in the most recent update they did state that relatively soon they will be giving more information on production. So I decided to hold off to publish this video until after the 30th of November. However, that does mean that perhaps at the end of this video there's going to be a bit tacked on. So if that happens, great. I don't know. That's in the future. I'm not clairvoyant. However, I'm going to proceed along, and if I don't hear anything on the Storaxa project or from the team creators by the 1st of December, I'm going to go ahead and print this video as it is. But let's carry on. So technically, there have been 4 updates, official updates from Storaxa on this campaign. The first part of this video, let's go through each of those updates. First up, there was the one on the 31st of October. Now, this is the one where they did detail about changes in their internal personnel. We touched on this, by the way, during the Zoom consultation and the Zoom kind of chat together in the previous month's video. I recommend you check out. But they were highlighting that they realised that notwithstanding the fact that they were stating that Stripe had not given them all of the funds, that they needed to make some personnel changes internally. And that led to communication issues, and they were stating that we're expecting to receive the remaining funds on the 7th of November and to begin production on the 13th of November. Now, alongside this, they included this image of the trays. This is the bay enclosure they're saying that's been modified, that has been sent to them, that the eventual unit is going to have inside. And many users, and I detail this more in the article that we're always updating here, stated how that internal enclosure piece there doesn't look too dissimilar to the sort of thing you would pick off the shelf at AliExpress. And indeed, just slight differences in the design and the shape of it compared to the original image that was shown, and this new chassis design, placement, allocation of areas, whether it would fit and stuff like that. So whether that means a fundamental redesign in the chassis, or that this has arrived, and whether that was pre-production and whether that is going to be best suited to everything involved, is still yet to be confirmed. But there was no denying that their sharing of that image was not the full exoneration that they may have been hoping there in terms of showing that, letting people know what's going on, because it did raise a few questions for some users, and you can head on down to a lot of those links in the description of that updated post. Unfortunately, only backers can access in order to find out more about that. Now, forward from that, there was a further update here, as you can see, on the 9th of November, a very short one here, basically stating that Stripe had released the funds. However, they hadn't released all of those funds. So they said it's not the best news, but it's not the worst news, and they were going to use that to sort of negotiate and work out how they could start production immediately. There was no room for error. Again, mixed reactions to this in the descriptions there if you go into the comments, if you scroll on down, which led us to our next update on the 20th, an even shorter update, which went on to say that they've received the funds and mass production has started, and they'll be posting a more detailed update at the end of the week, and that was on the 20th of November, so that's 10 days ago at the time of recording, which led us on to update 26, 6 days later, where they went ahead and showed people a new motherboard they're working on there. It's still in the AMD board stage. We've seen predominantly that it's the AMD configuration that they've shown off more than any other, and you know, it's a nice looking Mobo there, and it's nice that they're sharing more images. It is the 10 GBE Intel AMD model there, and they've said they'll try to post every 7 to 10 days moving forward there. And again, this is what I mean about me holding off on the full publication of this video until right at the start of December, just to give them the benefit of the doubt of those published updates. But those have been the 4 main updates that they've talked about. Now, of those updates, I like to see the internal hardware, but as I've been saying now for what feels like half a year, show me the case. Yes, they've shown some images of the case in the past. We've discussed that, and again, if you go into that article, there was mentioning of the case. They did show off some provisional images of the case, but these were a very long time ago, and it feels like something they should have knocking around their offices. Now, moving slightly ahead of those updates, which again, I'm not going to really call them 4 updates. If we had to think about it, it was basically one update and three kind of minor tip updates there. There hasn't been a lot of word from them in the comments. Now, there's going to be users that will argue, I would argue, for good or for bad, that this isn't Amazon, it isn't eBay, it's not Walmart. You are buying into crowdfunding. I completely understand it. And therefore, the actual expectations you have as a consumer when putting money towards this are very, very different to an eShop. But several users on there, I would argue rightly, would say that responding to the odd comment should be possible. It's not that hard. We are still talking about large sums of money. Although they did highlight there was changes in personnel, that to me should mean that replies are slow, not that replies don't happen at all. Also, when you do go through a lot of the comments, there's a lot of users that, as this is a campaign that a lot of people got into in January of 2023, the result is people have moved house. People have changed their bank details. People, when there are people on there requesting refunds, which is a sticky topic on crowdfunding, so we're not really going to delve into that one. But when people are looking for updates on things, when people are looking for, just a sign that their product is going to go to the correct address and not the one they used to live at, not many people have said anything on there along the lines of Storaxa responding to them. And by not many, I mean I've not had time to read through the last few thousand comments to see if people have actually confirmed it. But the ones that I have, when I have been scanning through these pages every day or every other day, all I can see is users saying they've requested address changes but never hearing back from Storaxa. Now, again, this is because of that limited personnel. I can understand if they have changed the number of personnel on site and they've had to change things to adopt a better financial workable model. I completely understand. But at the same time, that should explain slow replies, not no replies. Now, a lot of users have reached out to me on the base of the last few updates, and it was mentioned in the comments as well, about a review unit and asking me, have I received a review unit and have I been in communication with Storaxa about that? And I've tried my best not to share the communication outside of these videos because I think it's a little bit unfair otherwise, but within the context of these videos I think that's fine because this is about a documentation of crowdfunding NAS campaigns as a whole, not just this one. Now, when it comes to that sample, the last communication I've had with them was on the 31st of October, so 1 day shy of a month ago. Now, with that, they highlighted, thanking me for continued coverage of the project, whether, we can read into that whatever we like. But on top of that, they said that the review sample will be ready to send out for you next week. We've replaced the pre-production parts with parts from the actual production line, and we'll receive a sample that is more like the finished product, which is great, which is exactly what we were talking about in previous correspondence. There was no rush for that sample. We are not in any major rush for it. We'd rather have something we receive be better representative of what everyone else will receive, because even though we are reviewing a prototype, we don't want to review something that is objectively different to what campaign backers are also going to receive. However, and I've obviously removed my address from this, thank you Google Elements, it should be highlighted that that was the 31st of August and no unit has arrived. There's been no further communication and it has been a calendar month. Now, if they hadn't once again stated a deadline, I wouldn't be raising this point. But they're the ones that have raised a deadline here if they have before, which has been something of a recurring issue throughout this campaign, with them setting their own milestones, their own guidelines of which they then are unfortunately unable to stick to. And bear in mind, that is October 31st I received that message, where October 31st was when they mentioned they still had the cash flow issues and they hadn't received the bulk of that funding yet. So, again, I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't follow up on that message and that further information didn't arise from it. Again, because it was a self-imposed deadline on their part, not because we are in any rush to receive it here at NAS Compares. Now, moving forward from that, I think it is, and you can probably see from the tab on my screen, a lot of users have raised either with me, raised on Reddit, or raised in the comments of the campaign itself, comparisons with another crowdfunding campaign that has started recently, and that is the ZimaCube. And it is one, hands in air, that I've talked about a lot on the channel recently, indeed. Whereas the Storaxa campaign started in January of 2023, and we're going into December of 2023, and there has been arguably more limited hands-on of that unit, not just by reviewers, of course, which are who I'm referring to when I'm talking in the first person, but also on their updates. Now, that is their first campaign. I completely understand this is you know, ZimaCube, this is technically their third crowdfunding campaign. They have units in the wild, they have existing subsidy. That all makes sense why they would be more established or more polished in their presentation. On top of that, obviously they've got a bit more backing and financial backing from previous projects and a reputation that goes along with it. So I'm not suggesting by comparing these two, and you shouldn't either, that these two should be like for like comparisons in terms of a production on crowdfunding and the eventual result. Also, it's worth highlighting that the ZimaCube doesn't have the number of SKUs, and that is to say the number of configurations, including hard drives and SSDs and different CPUs, that the Storaxa campaign has. And therefore, the ZimaCube is arguably a simpler proposition to present in terms of Kickstarter and managing those orders. However, and I will probably mention this next year against these two devices, because I do think they need to be compared against one another, points that others and myself have raised are the following. Number one, with the ZimaCube, one of the things they've done in terms of their updates is their updates are public. So if you go in to an incognito window where we're not logged in, as you can see, updates, I can read them. I don't have to be a backer to read them. I need to, you know, throw in a buck if I want to go into the comments and add into there, which can often be a kind of barrier to stop trolls. But when it comes to actual updates, they've kept it public. Also, alongside that, they've published a lot more images about their production. They've gone ahead and described a lot of the PCIe lanes there. And on top of that, and yes, they are a larger established team, but not that much larger, importantly. They've gone into more detail about the tests, a lot more of this public information that you can find online. It's not unlisted. And it's things like that I've been separating these two campaigns about. The fact that on the ZimaCube campaign there, I can see all of the performance that they've published. Now, if I take off my Everyday Joe Public hat and I put on my YouTube reviewer hat, as mentioned, they've sent one. If you followed the channel, you know that we've received this device. We've already started conducting hardware testing. The software testing, we're waiting until they roll out their own OS. And again, they are rolling out their own OS with this thing. They're not utilising a third-party OS. It has to be said that the way they've managed that campaign does draw certain dissatisfaction for some users about the way the campaign has been handled by Storaxa there. But once again, we're not criticising that with regards to brand versus brand, because of the scale of these two organisations are very, very different. But still, nonetheless, the ZimaCube campaign has highlighted for a lot of users weaknesses in the way updates are being delivered, weaknesses in the way information is being presented on that campaign. And I did think it was worthy of note, because there were lots of users that were getting in touch about that specific point, because as time has worn on with this campaign and people have got adjusted and used to the way the updates are being delivered, when they can see on the other side of the fence that it is being presented in arguably a more informative way, that does draw comparison. Now, if you're watching this, that means that there hasn't been a further update in time to make this end of the video. Indeed, I put a comment on the main comment section of Storaxa. It already went live a little while ago, explaining why this video has eked into December when I never would have liked it to go out into December. Let's face it, there I am criticising Storaxa about staying to their own deadlines, and I've gone ahead and published a video a day or so late. Let's face it, there is something to talk about there. But nevertheless, I think it's important that those delays are explained. And this is only further kind of underlining that point I'm making about that you should explain why delays happen. You should explain about those hurdles that you can hit, or when you make certain decisions. Even if you send short messages like this one, people will understand and, you know, forgive you for it if you go out of your way to explain those reasons why, for good or for bad. Hopefully, in the next few days, there will be more concrete of an update from Storaxa on this. And of course, as soon as I know that their unit is being sent from Storaxa to us, that they're still going to go ahead and do that, I will let you guys know in the comments that that is going to go ahead and happen. But nevertheless, we've already backed this campaign regardless. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope this isn't the ending I need to use for the video, because it would have been great to add further more to this, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we? But apart from that, any further updates that happen, of course, I will add. Whether you're a backer or not, you'll be able to access them and read them on the Super Mega Thread article linked in the description over at NAS Compares. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and have yourselves a fantastic week.